This podcast is not intended to and does not create a client-therapist relationship between the AllPro Mindset hosts, Jason Frabel or Dr. Aaron Sapio, and any other person. Although tips for incorporating mindfulness interventions into your daily life are offered, this podcast is not a group therapy session and is not intended to take the place of therapeutic intervention.
Listening to Doc and Jay on AllPro Mindset, where we interview professionals, explore positive outlooks, and make connections to our own lives. Jay, tell us about who you are and what you do.
All right. Thanks, Doc. And welcome back, listeners. Just a bit of my background here. I've been working with individuals and training athletes and working with teams. And the idea is for me to help them really achieve peak performance and really train them to perform at their best. But really, it was my journey that really stemmed from prior experience as a competitive collegiate athlete. And for me, I've always been intrigued by the human mind and human behavior, and really what makes people tick and allows them to perform at their best. My graduate studies in the field of sports psychology eventually merged with my personal experience as a competitor, and really haven't looked back since. So, at this point, it's just about gaining as much insight and getting my hands on as much information as I possibly can. And really, this is an exciting time in the field of human performance and positive psychology. And I just believe it's our due diligence to get the word out and change as many lives as possible. Just creating more productive, meaningful, and happy lives. So, that's a bit about myself, Doc. Could you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'm a full-time school psychologist and a licensed psychologist, as well as an adjunct professor. My focus has been working with children and adolescents to help them become their best selves. Typically, I work with individuals from a cognitive behavioral perspective, and recently I have been learning more about positive psychology, which of course is the format of this podcast when we talk about really well-being and the mind-body connections and helping us all to be as healthy as we can. And I think that I really like this format. I've worked in the past in a lot of volunteer capacities and advocacy and outreach work. And I think that this is a great way to just get the message out that all of us are striving to be happy, and we are all striving to be the best selves that we can be. And I think it's important when we talk to all of the guests that we talk to on a regular basis and learn from each other and learn from what these other professionals have to say and how we can incorporate that into our own daily lives and take a message away from that. So to that end, last week we spoke to Dolph Hoke, who was outstanding. I mean, his physical accomplishments are absolutely mind-blowing. But what was something that you took from what he said and was able to kind of incorporate it into your life this week?
So you hit it on the head. I mean, listening to him talk about his experiences, which led him to, becoming this ultra triathlete and doing things that most of us only can dream about. I think the one thing that really stood out to me was this notion of why, getting to the why, getting under the surface, reflecting, being self-aware, and identifying what gets us out of bed in the morning. Mm-hmm. What is it when I wake up and look at my day that gets me moving? Mm-hmm. And I think that, he was talking about that just as it related to his own life and how it is incorporated into his way of training and working with athletes. And we're talking to, a guy here who's going out and training the elite, elite himself, doing things, like I said, that not many people can do on this planet, let alone just striving for any particular goal. But this guy, and what stood out again was, here this guy is, and Dolph, and he's talking about completing, 5 triathlons, 5 days in a row, and already focused on this DECA, right? This race in New Mexico that is 10 days, triathlon every day for 10 consecutive days. And what also stood out to me was the fact that, when we asked him why, he said to be an example, to lead others. Mm-hmm. And he even touched on that when, working with these elite MMA fighters, training teams, performance teams. He goes in and just sets the stage by example. And, looking for, at myself and reflecting on my own being and, personifying or embodying that as I went through my week, and I'm interacting with students in the school or anyone that I'm crossing paths with, I'm looking at myself and saying, what is my why and how am I leading them by example? Am I embodying my why? Mm-hmm. And that's, I think that's so important. And that's kind of moving us in the direction this evening in our topic of drive, because, we can differentiate motivation. What is motivation? And that gets us moving and doing things. But what is it about drive that is kind of this, what we refer to as the undercurrent of really the value-based component? And I think that ties in very well with this idea of why, because when you look at that and you reflect on it, I think when you're going deeper, you're looking at that value-based component. And I think that thing and that piece is vital in getting us moving and getting us, motivated to take action in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I found myself doing the same thing, kind of almost like a self check-in throughout the week. I mean, we all have bad days. We all have bad moments, and they can become all-encompassing. And I think that that's the important time where you do a self check-in and say, am I following the steps that we're suggesting to other people to follow? Am I following the things that I'm learning from these other professionals? Am I, leading by example? Am I taking a moment to take deep breaths? Am I using meditation? Am I checking in and looking at the positive aspects, or am I doing negative thinking? So I think that checking in and what is my why and am I leading by example, I think was just a huge message. And I think it's so important. And I think it's so easy for us to get caught up in just our own tasks and whatever we have going on, and whether, what we have to get done, instead of checking in and saying, wait, why am I doing this? And am I leading an example? Am I doing, am I being my best self, really? And I think that was a great message from him. And definitely the purpose, the purpose that it carries. That's, last week we talked about grit, and this week we're talking about drive. And I think that's that purpose commitment. Are we really answering it? Are we really looking at it? And are we allowing our why to drive us to become grittier?
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, I think they go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. That this idea of grit, passion meets perseverance. You have to fundamentally, you get to that piece, that undercurrent, that why or the drive. And I think that helps to move us in the direction and to push through and to persevere. Mm-hmm. And see the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. And I know that Dolph referenced that, several times, that it's bigger than you. Mm-hmm. It's bigger than you. And I think when you recognize and see this element, that I'm not with blinders or narrow, that it's broader, and this embodying these elements and these pieces of our why, it's like a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. It starts to impact those around you. And I know just from personal experience in watching him engage a group and engage a team and get up and start moving, and that the group just starts moving. Mm-hmm. They don't even know why. They just do it. Mm-hmm. And then, it's that idea of leading by example, and then kind of infusing in, different elements and your philosophy, and then get back moving again. But he's just, like I said before, just an amazing individual who is just a testament to what grit is, hard work and perseverance and passion can do, and a pure, just inspiration for us. And I think that moving into that element of drive and that which we're going to touch on this evening with this evening's guest, I think it's going to bring it to life. In addition to just building off of Dolph and having it as our guest last week.
So tonight we're speaking with Brian Herzlinger. Brian was raised in Marlton, New Jersey, and attended my alma mater, Cherokee High School. He graduated from Ithaca College, and he is now a director and writer known for My Date with Drew, Meet My Valentine, and Baby on Board, among many other movies. Brian is currently awaiting the date for both his romantic comedy, Love's Last Resort, which he directed and also happens to be Alan Thicke's last film, and his thriller, Hush Little Baby. So, Brian, last week we were talking about grit. This week, we are talking about drive and commitment toward a purpose as being a contributor to grit. So we are very excited to be talking to you tonight about all of these topics.
I love it. Is that Eye of the Tiger?
That is Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, man.
I'm officially pumped.
Nice.
This is it.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you, Aaron. It's been a long time.
It has been. It has been. It's so nice to see you doing so well. I love watching Cherokee alum soar.
Well, right back at you.
Thank you. So, research is saying that commitment to a purpose during teenage years acts as a catalyst for grittier development later on. So, did you feel your purpose early on?
Interesting. Well, first of all, no one's ever called me gritty, so thank you. really, again, pumped about that. It's interesting because, I think so. Because back at Cherokee, just the brief kind of analogy here about passion and perseverance and grit and just commitment to your passion. I was going to go to veterinary school. I was down that path, but leading up to that path, freshman, sophomore, junior year, I just focused on getting the best grades I could. That was my goal. That was the job in front of me. The task in front of me was, do your best to get a 4.0, do your best to get the scholarship to wherever you're going, or at least partial scholarship, and focus on that and just do your best. And it wasn't until senior year.
Brian, we're losing you a little bit.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Now I can. I heard you say it wasn't until senior year.
Yeah, it wasn't until senior year that I kind of realized about the fact that I could do for a living what I loved doing for fun, which was making short videos, making little movies, just telling stories. And it was a really big decision to kind of take that risk and not go into, what I was planning on doing, veterinary medicine, and going into a much less sturdy and defined occupation of making movies. And so it took a lot of back on it, and I think it's a lot of.
We're losing you again.
What?
Oh, yeah, no, you're gone.
Is this better?
Move toward the light.
I'm going. Wait, I'm at the light. Can you hear me?
That's better. You found it.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I just died, so I don't know how much longer this is going to go. I'm in the light, guys. It's beautiful out here. No, I was just saying that it was, to make that kind of decision. It is something I'm very grateful for, because you don't want to go through life asking what if. And I was saying that I just had a really great support system in my family for me to make that decision and change, to go for go for the gold, if you will, move out to Los Angeles, not knowing anybody out here, and just go for it, just try. And so that's what it was all about. And then that's something that I still, to this day, you know, in this business and in life, you have to be passionate, you have to be committed, and you have to just, you know, go for it and just have no regrets. So that's what I do. I'm gritty.
You're gritty.
Yeah. You know, one thought, you know, that I had. So I watched the trailer for My Date with Drew, and so here it is. I'm guessing it seemed to me at the time when you had this concept or idea, you were 27, so you had been out there for 5 years, right? And it opens up, you know. So you know, Doc is like, hey, you know, check this out, do a little research, and the intro was, you know, I have no money, right? I have no job. I have no girlfriend, and I won $1,100 on a game show. And I'm like, you know, so here you are in this maybe, I don't know, pivot point or a crossroad or whatever it might be. Where did that concept to have a date with Drew Barrymore come from?
Well, let's go back to those three things: no job, no girlfriend, and being broke. Right.
Right.
First of all of that adds up to one word. You could say it with me: gritty. Thank you. So it was. What was so funny was coming out here with the goal of wanting to direct Jaws. Right. You know, it's very difficult to do that, to break into the industry and to, you know, get a chance to do a feature film for a studio or what have you, even an independent film. And it takes a lot of money and relationships, contacts, whatever. Well, what I wound up doing, kind of navigating the kind of space of networking, being really cool to people, being very nice to people, and smiling when I would deliver coffee for somebody or photocopy a script for somebody. You know, it all adds up. They remember you. They know you don't want to be doing that. You want to be doing something else, something more, but they remember you. So my first jobs were, I interned for Steven Spielberg, and that was the best experience ever. Yeah, that was a dream come true, because Spielberg and his movies inspired me to want to make movies. So I interned, but then I needed a job to pay rent, right? How to live. And I was hired as a production assistant on a TV show called Chicago Hope. And that really was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I met Bill D'Elia, who is my mentor. He's a terrific, he's family to me. He took me under his wing, taught me about directing more so than what I learned at Ithaca. I learned the how at Ithaca, but I learned the why from Bill, right? So I'm getting these tools, and as a production assistant, sure, I'm making photocopies and getting people coffee, but I'm like, when the clock is up at the end of the day at 6 o'clock, I didn't go home. I went to the set, and I sat next to every director that came in and just watched that director do their thing, and just hit them over the head with question after question after question. It just had a front row seat to what I wanted to do. And that's priceless. And I can't tell you how that just influenced and shaped my style as director and so forth. So anyway, so Chicago Hope, production assistant. While I was doing that, I was continuing to make my short films, to direct my own stories. And again, to show the powers that be that, hey, I'm a director, not a coffee guy. And then Chicago Hope ended, and Bill wound up taking over on Ally McBeal. And he brought me over as his assistant. So now I've been promoted to the executive producer's assistant. So now I've got even more free reign on set, right?
I have to interrupt you for a minute, Brian, real quick. Ally McBeal was one of my favorite shows, and I swear I see in my head the things that Ally McBeal would see, like in the show, when she would see these exaggerated things. That's how my brain works. And I couldn't believe that I was watching a show that showed how my brain works. It was just amazing. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I had to make the connection.
No, that's wonderful. David Kelly, man, he's a genius. It was just unbelievable. And by the way, what an amazing experience. 3 years I had on that show.
That's awesome.
And it was, you know, amazing. I can't say enough about it, but then the show ended. And at the timing of it was such that I wanted really so badly to direct an episode. And I had done all my short films and got my pitch ready. I pitched myself to David and Bill, and it was so cool because they seemed open to it, right? And then the show was done. The show got canceled. And I was like, oh no, what are we going to do? And then Bill, I did another project with Bill, a pilot, and then he took a year off. And during that year, I needed to eat. So I'm literally like, dog sitting for him. And I wound up through my relationships on the shows getting a job in a post-production facility, right? Graveyard shift, 7 at night till 3 in the morning, handing out editing supplies to editors. And I could not have been more bummed about that because that's, I wasn't learning. I wasn't around the process, I was just, it sucked. But it left my days free. And a friend of mine told me about a game show that was holding auditions, went on the game show and won the grand prize of $1,100.
Yeah.
This is getting to your point. So now this is the genesis for my date with Drew, because the $1,100 that I won I could have used it, to pay rent, get through another month, what have you. But at the time, I was really not feeling great about where I was in terms of the career and what I was doing. And every once in a while, you get into a spot. I'm a very positive guy, very ambitious, very kind of committed, and I don't quit. And but there was a moment in that period where I was like, what am I doing here? What am I doing? And how am I surviving? And how am I going to, I can't keep going on like this. And what else do I have to do? Nobody made a better cup of coffee than I did. Nobody copied a script better than I did. Right. And all those things go through your head. And one of my best friends from Jersey, who went to Cherry Hill East, actually, this guy, Brett Wynn, and another buddy of mine, John Gunn, Brett and I had dinner in Sherman Oaks, Hamburger Hamlet that night. And we all have a friend that you can just totally unload all of your garbage onto. And that's who Brett is for me. So I just said, what the hell am I doing here? Why am I here? And he's trying to make me feel better. I'm like, don't try to make me feel better. I'm at the end of the road here, man. I'm not, this isn't working. I'm going to go back to Jersey, I think. I don't know. He's like, you're not going back to Jersey. Let's go make a movie. I'm like, don't. I was like, screw you. Don't tell me let's go make a movie. Do you have $1 million? I don't want to make it. How are you going to go make a movie? He's like, well, why don't we do a documentary? And I said, idiot. I want to make Star Wars. I don't want to do a documentary. and all of this. And it was one of those things. And he said to me, he's like, well, why don't we do a documentary about you? And I said, there's nothing about me that's interesting to anybody. And he actually said, well, what if you tried to meet Drew Barrymore? And I said, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, you've had a crush on her since you were 6. I'm like, yeah, I don't want the world to know that. That's embarrassing. This is embarrassing. What are you talking about? I just kept saying, what are you talking about? And the interesting thing about the $1,100 I won on the game show was I won it because of Drew. The winning answer on the game show was the name Drew Barrymore. That's what won me the $1,100.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then we got into the logistics. We didn't have a camera. And back then, there weren't iPhones where you could shoot a whole movie on your phone. Mm-hmm. It was, we needed a camera, and we didn't have one, and we couldn't afford to buy one. I had $1,100 to do a whole movie. Really? That's what we're going to use to make the movie. So we wound up going to Circuit City, where they had a 30-day return policy. And we shot the whole movie in 30 days.
That's where you did 30 days?
Yeah.
Genius.
So now, that was what was interesting to me, was putting a timeline on it, giving parameters. So it wasn't just let me just see if I can get Drew a date with Drew and just keep going. No, I had a timeline, 30 days to get one date with my dream girl. And once I had that was the key for me, was having that timeline. And so that was a Friday night when I had that conversation with Brett. We met with John. We called John from the restaurant. He said, no, nobody's going to care about Herzlinger. Nobody wants to see him on screen. And then he called back 10 minutes later. He said, I told my wife the idea, and she said, if Brian could get a date with Drew, I'd want to see that. Oh, nice. So then Saturday morning we met up. Monday morning we started. We went right to Circuit City and just started. Wow. We just went for it. And it was the shortest pre-production period I've ever had in my life. It was like 48 hours. But honestly, the day started, that Monday till now has been, it's collectively the best day of my life, because I started to just go for it. Mm-hmm. Right. I just kind of said, I'm going to give it my best shot. Let's see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to try everything I possibly can to do this. And that is such a fulfilling feeling, when you're just every day you're doing something towards achieving your dream. And we didn't know what we were going to have at the end of that movie. I didn't know if I was going to get the date with Drew. I didn't know if we were just going to have footage of, 3 buddies hanging out over the summer, in 2003. I didn't know. But it turned out that we caught lightning in a bottle, and the movie just launched everything for me. And I have, I owe everything that's happening on behind the camera for me to that journey, that started it all. So, yeah.
That's outstanding. That's very cool. To switch a little bit, you're also a screenwriter. You've written a couple of your movies, and
Yes.
I'm curious about where your motivation came from. Like specifically in Meet My Valentine, that is a heartstring tugging movie. So where did the inspiration from that come from?
Well, a good friend of mine, Brady Smith, is an actor and a writer as well. And Brady had a nightmare. And he had a nightmare about what would happen to his wife. And at the time, he only had his daughter, Harper. What would happen to Harper and his wife if he had died, and how he would not have a say in anything. And he actually had the idea, the germ of the idea of trying to find his replacement, right? Mm. If he knew he was dying. And then my writing partner is also a fellow Cherokee graduate from class of 94, Jay Black. Mm-hmm. So Jay and I have been best friends since 4th grade in Beeler, and
I went to Beeler too.
We write. He's my writing partner. He's the #1 college stand-up in the country too. So anyway, so we dove into writing this script about a guy who wants to find his replacement for his wife and daughter, and he sets up an online dating profile without his wife knowing to basically find these guys and interview them on these quote unquote dates, and realizes pretty soon that his wife and he have drifted apart over the years, and he doesn't know enough about her to complete her profile. So he starts to date her himself again and winds up falling in love with her all over again just in time to say goodbye. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those scripts that when we wrote it was originally called Meet My Wife. And when we wrote it, it was the only script we've written that I was crying while writing certain scenes. It's only happened to me in that one movie. And you know what the best part about this is? When we finished it, I thought it was the best thing we'd ever written. And I thought maybe it'll take 15 minutes for somebody to say, we want to make it. And it took 4 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it took 4 years. And it was the first movie I did for a company called Mar Vista Entertainment. I went in, met with them. They wanted me to direct a project for them that they had already in the pipeline. And I suggested possibly this romantic drama. And they loved it. Their only catch was it has to involve in some way, shape, or form Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. So we changed the title to Meet My Valentine. I adjusted, the lead character's name to Valentine from Nicole, and added, a scene or two, and otherwise it's exactly the way it was. And I remember when we were shooting it, it was a tough shoot just because. Especially on the independent film side of things, depending on your budget level, you get a certain number of days to make these movies. And you never have enough time. I mean, filmmaking is just a constant race between budget and time. That's all it is. And the trick is you don't want your audience to know how much money you had or how many days you had to make the movie. You just don't want them to see that. If it shows up on screen, you didn't do your job. So anyway, I shot that movie in 14 days, I think.
Really?
Yeah, 14 days. And it was very, very difficult, but very gratifying. The scene that I wrote that I cried writing is the finale of the film. And I just made a personal goal to shoot it and have every shot be exactly the way it was pictured in my head when we were writing it. And it was. It was exactly what I wanted. So that worked out great. And so, yeah, Meet My Valentine wound up really just exceeding expectations. It was a response that reminded me of the response of my date with Drew in terms of the way people related to it and identified with it. The film wound up trending on Twitter, and women around the world were taking photos of themselves and videos of themselves crying while watching Meet My Valentine and then posting those pictures on Twitter.
Wow.
And it was just so validating and sweet and great and awesome. And yeah, I'm really, really proud of Meet My Valentine. And it was the first time, though, to get that response on something that was scripted, right? Mm-hmm. That, you know, we actually went out and shot with a schedule and a legitimate film, as opposed to a documentary where you just didn't know what you were getting day to day. Mm-hmm. It was particularly validating and made me feel like, okay, I could do this. Mm-hmm. I could do this. We can touch people, you know, and be successful at that and reach people. So that was, you know, a very important movie in my canon.
Yeah. And you're a family man. Congratulations on the new baby.
Thank you very much.
And you have these movies that are very emotionally draining. So, I mean, you had that one, of course, that was very emotional, and you have a new thriller out. So you're immersed in these emotions all day at work. And then you come home and come out of those emotions to be the dad Brian or husband Brian. So how do you separate? How do you go in and out of character in that way?
That's a really good point. I don't really, which is, I don't know if that's good or bad, because when you're directing a movie, you have to know the script and the story and the characters better than anybody else, any other department, because every department and everybody else is coming to you for the answers to all the questions, right? So you have to be immersed in it. And I'm immersed in my work the way I'm immersed in my family. It's just, you know, the topics are different, if you will, right? So at work, I have to, you know, immerse myself in what does the art department need? What does the costume department need? What does the actor need to get through this scene? But then, you know, I leave the set, drive home, or if I'm on location, you know, I shot Love Always Santa, my Christmas film in Minnesota. So, you know, then I go back to the hotel room, call my wife, FaceTime with my daughter, and see what their needs are, right? Mm-hmm. And just do that. And you know, but for me, it's interesting because you get, you know, I talk to my wife throughout the day while I'm shooting, and they always come to, you know, if we're within a decent, you know, radius, they'll come to set.
Oh, nice.
You know, hang out, which is great. And, you know, the Alan Thicke film, Love's Last Resort, that you mentioned, you know, my wife and daughter came out to Arizona while we were shooting and had like a mini vacation at this resort hotel we were shooting at. And it was so much fun. It was great. You know, it's a really great feeling when you have your kid sitting on your lap in your director's chair when you say action. It's really, really one of those kind of Oprah Winfrey full circle moments, right? You're like, wow, how did this happen? What is going on here? But no, I don't separate it that much. Now the thriller, yeah, it's my first thriller, Hush Little Baby, which I'm really proud of it. I'm really excited about the way it turned out. And I got to do a lot of fun things visually with it, you know, because the story allowed it, as opposed to getting fun camera angles and Meet My Valentine while I'm, you know, watching a guy die of cancer. It doesn't work. So you just got to find the right content that allows you to have some fun. So with Hush Little Baby, I got to do a lot of fun stuff with the camera and just have some fun, you know, trying my hand at, eliciting a response from the audience that I never had to really before, the kind of thrill, the scare, the suspense, you know, and that was a blast for me to do. Now, that being said, the film is, you know, it's a domestic scenario, you know, about this family who hires the wrong person to take care of their baby, and very hand that rocks the cradle, right? So in that regard, I would just, you know, say to my wife, we're never hiring a nanny. Right. You know, like, we're just not going to do it.
Done and done.
Yeah, but it was also fun because I got to take, you know, experiences, you know, with my daughter. My daughter just turned 3, but when, you know, she's our first child, so you do all the mistakes with the first one, right? So, and all the fears, the realizations that, you know, to somebody who doesn't have a child, you go into a IKEA or something, and it's a place where you get furniture. I see it as a house of horrors because you know, she could get decapitated, she could poke her eye out, she could, you know, fall down the thing, and, you know, whatever. So in telling the story, I imported a lot of my experiences in my life with my, you know, raising a child into kind of honing it into the fears that the character, the mother character in this would have about her kid, and be able to kind of find, as a director, be able to get the better reactions, you know, to something, knowing that I reacted a certain way to a certain scenario, right, that was unexpected or something. So I think that's my regret on Baby on Board, because I directed, Baby on Board is a fun R-rated comedy that I directed. I turned 32 the morning of the first day of shooting on Baby on Board. And that was a big movie. It was a $5 million movie with Heather Graham and Jerry O'Connell and John Corbett. And I was directing her on how she should be pregnant, right? or what the labor should be like, this. And I had, this is years and years and years before I had firsthand experience with that. Right. And I was just using other movies I'd say, I don't know, here, let's watch 9 Months. Yeah. Let's watch how Julianne Moore did it. There you go. That's the way to do it. Yeah. That kind of stuff. And I felt like that I wish I could have given more personal direction in those experiences, Mm-hmm. But yeah, it still worked. Heather is a great actress, and she really did a great job at committed to doing that right. So it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I just love listening to the story and just the evolution, your starting point to now. And, I tend to move in a direction of kind of getting to these more kind of existential oriented questions and ideas. And what stood out to me is that, and I communicate this a lot to people that I work with. I said, look, reason, logic can move us only so far. And I think that these kind of bigger things in our lives, we kind of come to this point. And for whatever reason, and you call it faith or call it whatever you want, that there's this leap that has to occur. And I know, like in the field of positive psychology, that there's this idea that positive thinking isn't enough, that dreamers are not doers, right? But what is it that prompts people to take action? And, this evening's topic is drive. And there's Daniel Pink, author, motivating speaker, has this idea that this notion of dangle the carrot, that's enough, is in fact not enough. That there are three basically components that actually allow people to be motivated and to really reach that state of drive. And three of those components are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So there's this idea that people really want to kind of have control over their work and what they do. Mastery, kind of that people want to get better at what they do as long as it matters to them. And then this piece of purpose that people want to be part of something that's bigger than who they are. And that was touched on even last week and the week before with the guests that we had on. And to me, it seemed like there was this point, at 27 and with this $1,100 and you get there, and what's making me, at that point, is it just intuition that's moving me? But those three elements are seeping out from what you're telling us, and with that notion of drive. And I'm wondering, when you made that move, how much of it, just was stop logic, stop reason, and just it's time to take the leap.
A lot of it, honestly, 100% of it was because keep in mind, it was 30 days, right? It started off as 30 days for me, which is I have nothing, absolutely nothing to lose but to give this 100%, right? And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. That's it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I will not go through my life asking what if. And I'll tell you, that is something that I think, look at you guys. You have your own radio show, a podcast. I mean, this is, there are people that would love to be doing what you're doing. You guys have achieved something amazing here. You're doing what you love to do, and I think that's awesome. And I love that. I love meeting people that do that. I think it's, I could tell you when we, God, it really was in Cherokee. I did a senior video, okay, for the senior year, and wound up getting all 381 students from our graduating class to be in this senior video, right? And they were all singing Oh What a Night and Walk Like a Man by the Four Seasons. Oh What a Night was our prom song, and I always loved Walk Like a Man, but I wasn't going to settle for just the students. I wanted the principal. I wanted Principal Stecker. I wanted all the staff. I wanted everybody in this thing, and I had a grandiose idea for the finale where I was going to get a helicopter, and I was going to get all these kids on the football field, and I was going to have them form the shape of a 94 and shoot it from a helicopter. That's what I wanted to do with the finale. Now, I didn't get a helicopter, wasn't allowed to, but I tried, and I needed to get all of the students out of class on the last day of their high school career, get them out before their last class. And the vice principal gave me permission to do it, but she said, I guarantee you nobody's going to show up because they're done. They're out. They're going to be bolted out. They're bolting out of school. I'm like, well, let me try. Let me see if they'll come.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come, right?
Right.
So every single student came to the football field.
Wow.
Right. And they all gathered, and it was an amazing thing. Now, I had been editing it on VHS. I'd been editing it all along while I was shooting, and I'd been shooting it for like 3 weeks to get all the students in this thing. But I would come in early every day, and we would do it before homeroom. I assigned them lyrics from each song, right?
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so that night was senior night, and I had to have it finished, so I just had to edit the final stuff from the football field in and get it done in time to show it at senior night.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even have time to watch the full thing when I finished editing it. I ran home, jumped in the shower, gave the VHS to my mom and said, hey, can you watch this? Tell me if there's any glitches. And I got out of the shower, and my mom hands me the videotape, and she's crying, and she's like, I'm like, is it that bad? She's like, no, it's really sweet and beautiful. Okay, so great.
Oh.
We go to Cherokee, get into the cafeteria, and Mr. Casimo has, this, I want to say a big screen, but it wasn't that big, but it was up, and there were two other regular TVs showing the senior video. And I knew that I would have them hooked on the first shot. If they laughed when they saw the principal wearing sunglasses dancing in the hallway to Walk Like a Man, I'm good. I'm good to go.
Right.
And so I start the video, and Principal Stecker, it starts on his feet. The camera pans up, tilts up from his feet. He's dancing. Then you see him wearing sunglasses, pointing at the camera and doing the goofiest dance ever, singing, Walk Like a Man. And everybody stood up and cheered, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. So now you got to picture me. I'm walking behind, all of the students watching this, watching their reactions, like getting like hiding and watching their faces and watching them react to themselves and watching them react to everybody else, other people in it. Mm-hmm. And then it comes to an end. And what I had done for the ending was I put a list together of every name of every graduate. And it was a scrolling end credits to the music, to the song Brown Eyed Girl, because I just love that song. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Casimo didn't know about the song at the end. So he turned the volume down after the picture was done, after all, the finale at the football field. Uh-huh. So I stood up to go tell Casimo to put the volume back on. And as I stood up and walked up to Casimo, the entire cafeteria stood up and gave me a standing ovation.
Oh.
Now, so when that happened, I was like, I want to do this. This is the best feeling in the freaking world. And to see them enjoying it so much, to see them reacting to the, images of light and sound that are evoking these emotions, this is the best feeling in the world. And then that moment got mirrored the first time we played My Date with Drew in a theater. On the film festival circuit. We had to do the film festivals in order to get My Date with Drew sold. It took us 2 years after the movie was done to sell it.
Okay.
So it's just never easy. It's never easy to be the overnight success when it takes you, like 13 years. But we got those standing ovations. We got those cheering moments throughout the film, and everybody just got really touched by it. And that is why there was no turning back for me. That was the validation of that, channeling the passion to do this, right? So it's just one of those things that you have to bring. I think you should automatically bring it in life, but specifically to your projects, to your work, to what's your goal? What's your end game? The end game is to feel really good about what you're doing, and does it benefit people? Amazingly awesome. If it does, terrific. It's great. But just to feel like you've got your hands in a niche that's meant for you to be there, that's the best feeling in the world, I think, professionally. So, yeah.
I mean, the question that was starting to pose in my mind that I think you just answered really is like, how do you get over the naysayers? You know, like the person who said to you, well, you can do it, but no one's going to come. Like, and I'm sure you have naysayers. I mean, if it took you 2 years to sell a movie, it took you 4 years to get your other movie off the ground, that means you met a lot of challenges along the way. So how do you kind of push through that?
It gets hard. Look, I'll tell you what. When My Date with Drew came out, we got great reviews, glowing reviews, okay? Except for Entertainment Weekly. Owen Gleiberman called me a charmless gas bag.
What?
Okay? That was the review of My Date with Drew. So, keep in mind, it's a unique situation. The movie's a personal project. I'm the guy on there, and it's a documentary. But that was a naysayer, and my mom wrote him a strongly worded letter. Okay,
good for her.
Don't piss off a Jewish Jersey mom. Don't do it. But yeah, you get and Baby on Board. I have there are things about Baby on Board that I love. I love the performances. I love the way the film looks. But there are things that I would love to do differently, or things in the script that I wish I had the ability or status to be able to say, we can't do that, it doesn't work, right? So you're definitely, it's not all, your entire career is not going to be all standing ovations. It's amazing because I'm in a business, I've immersed myself in a business based on opinion, right? Mm-hmm. Some people loved Rogue One. Some people hated Rogue One. So it doesn't, I think it's one thing to be able to navigate responses to your work. It's another thing to be able to navigate the terrain between the work. So yeah, it's tough. You just need to, it's a hustle. It's a constant hustle, to be able to, the risk reward of not having the quote unquote 9 to 5, steady gig is, getting the opportunities to tell the stories you want to tell and, whether they're the ones you write, like Meet My Valentine or Love Always Santa, or the ones that you're hired to direct, for a distribution company. All of it is honing your skill and exercising the muscle, which is, priceless. But, last year I directed 3 movies and it was a really good year in terms of going from one project to the next. And this year, it's so funny because our son was born in February, and I didn't want to leave my wife, as we're leading up to, I'm sure you guys know about this, when, you don't know that he's coming the exact day, and,
right.
The weeks leading up to, the delivery, you want to be there with your family. So I turned down 2 films, for the period from January 2nd through March. And so now I'm just being able to get back into, if I have to leave to go to Kentucky, for example, to go shoot a movie, I can. My wife's okay, and the baby's, good. And, I could go there for 3 weeks if I had to. So the thing that's interesting is making the decision to not take those projects, knowing that, it would be nice to not wind up back where I was when I did the trailer for My Date with Drew. Right. But you just gotta make decisions. And so coming out of the, postpartum scenario, I hopped on the phone and called everybody I knew, including the companies I've worked for and the companies I haven't, and said, I want to shoot something. I got to shoot something before June. Got to shoot something before June. Got to shoot something before June. Now, the good news is I've built up enough of a body of work and a reputation of being decent as a director and also as a guy to, I'm not an asshole. Right. So, nobody wants to work with an asshole. So that good work begets good work. And I think, it's a very small business. Everybody knows somebody that And so if you're somebody people don't like to work with, that gets around very quickly. But somebody people do like to work with, then that gets around too. So I'm fortunate in that that people like to work with me, and I'm not saying that in an ego way. I'm saying that in a survival way, because you just gotta, and that goes for anybody. It's not just directing. Don't be a dick.
Right.
Be a good person. There you go. Be a good person.
Amen. What stood out, you said you mentioned exercising the muscle, and we try to tie research in, and looking at grit and what is it. Grit can be referred to as, self-control, willpower, and the research points and says you have to exercise your willpower like a muscle, like you're going to the gym or whatever it is that you're doing. It has to be exercise, and that choice of words, exercising the muscle, really stood out, and that really ties in, to what we're getting at. And for me, and when I listen to you, you can hear the passion, you can hear the energy, just through through your voice and talking about what it is that you're doing day in and day out. And it's just so important. And, that you're just like this living testament of drive. And I mean, like I said,
thanks.
And it's like, when I look at it and I can say that dreams can come true, right? But
Right.
when you love what you do and you come to that edge and you have to take the leap, and you did it.
You do. You absolutely do. What's so funny is, I talk to students. I go around and talk to the students at film schools or what have you. I just spoke to a business class at Pepperdine University. I'm like, why am I here? Right. But it's interesting because when you talk about that going to the edge and jumping, right?
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing about it is you're jumping into water that's not serene, right? This is not, you get in a little canoe and you're drifting through. This is crazy, like Galapagos Islands, ridiculous riptide nonsense that you're jumping into, and you're just hoping that you could figure out your way through the reef, right? To get past the reef and get, Moana style, get past the crazy waves, so you can, go restore the heart of Tafiti. Okay,
Right.
So you can tell I have a daughter, but by the way, I love Moana. Anyway,
Great movie.
So I talk about how, in this particular business, there's no direct route or direct path to get there, right? So here's a side story, okay? I told you it took 2 years to get My Date with Drew released, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, we won the film festivals. But we won the film festivals, let alone played the film festivals.
Mm-hmm.
We beat movies like Napoleon Dynamite and Super Size Me and Garden State. And we won Best Feature.
Wow.
And that was like crazy, just crazy. But still nobody would take a risk on a romantic comedy wrapped up in the body of an $1,100 documentary with a no-name guy, a schmuck, if you will, trying to get a date with Drew Barrymore, but you can't say whether or not you got the date with her or not, right? So, or whether she's in the movie or not. So what do? What's the, who's going to take the risk on the distribution side? So one of the things we wanted to do was get on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get me on as a guest, because if potential buyers could see me on the #1 rated late night program in the country and showing clips of My Date with Drew talking about the festival, when somebody will see that this is worth the risk. And so I go on the show, and Leno threw me a curveball in the interview, and it goes to commercial break. And if you watch this episode, you see as the camera's fading to black for the commercial, Leno leans into me and he says, "Hey, you're pretty good on your feet. You want to be a correspondent for me?" And I'm like, "What?"
That's amazing.
So cut to, I was a Tonight Show correspondent for 3 years. I did over 26 episodes of the Tonight Show. And that wasn't something I was expecting to happen. That wasn't something I had on my bucket list. It was an opportunity that came to me through the hard work and persistence and passion and going over the edge, for the passion of making the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But being the guy in the movie also allowed, some other opportunities I wasn't expecting. So that path that wasn't forged went even on a bigger tangent. I didn't know, but that kept me going for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right. And it was interesting because there was a little bit of that's why Baby on Board was so important, because it was a bit of a battle to come back from being the guy in front of the camera to what I really wanted, which was behind the scenes. And Baby on Board was the movie that I did that, had a $5 million budget that I needed to prove to the business that I could direct a movie, bring it on budget, bring it in on schedule. And it's not an $1,100 documentary that I co-directed with two of my best friends. This is me. And so that was, the benefit of Baby on Board was showing I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then furthering the getting back into the path that I had set out for. But yeah, it's amazing what happens or what can happen when you just go to the edge and jump. Because you just don't know exactly what's going to happen, and that's exciting. That's life. That's awesome.
It is very exciting, and it has been wonderful to speak with you tonight, Brian. And I'm looking.
It's great talking to you guys.
I've seen that a quote that you've said that about the movie E.T., but you said it gave us permission to believe. And I'll tell you right now, one of my biggest things as a person, as a filmmaker, is being able to believe. If I didn't have that and didn't have that ability, I would have failed at this business. And I think that quote that you've said, this is quoting you, has really shown through everything you've shared with us tonight, and I think it's a wonderful message. You've really shared a lot, and you are definitely a gritty person.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm going to get a shirt that says I'm gritty.
I have grit.
With an arrow pointing to me saying gritty. I love it.
Done.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
That would be
Absolutely.
great. Thank you so much.
We really appreciate you being on tonight.
All right, guys. You take care.
All right. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Yeah. So, wow. Just you could feel the energy. I at different points, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm thinking about myself. I'm reflecting on my own personal life at different stages, and just as a competitor and moving. There's this idea that that you're looking ahead and you're training day in, day out. And he said, exercising like a muscle, and really that's the process. Mm-hmm. Okay. Which we've spoken about, at different times, with other guests, and that kind of fueling that, and maybe even getting to a point, where it's allowing you, in those moments of potential doubt or, just being fatigued to keep you pushing through. You build up the muscle, you've exercised the muscle, you've developed the willpower, you've come to a point where, and he even mentioned, it was 2 years, right? 2 years after he won, with funding and different things that, unless you're really kind of, rooted and grounded into that piece of drive, which we've touched on, this evening, in how it relates to just being independent, and this idea of mastery and having a sense of purpose and something bigger. It was very clear that all of those elements were tied into what he was doing, in his own in personal life, and filmmaking and screenwriting, and starting in high school and keep going, taking that leap, going out to LA, and 5 years nothing, and then hitting this point and saying, hey, what do I got to lose? Mm-hmm. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm not dreaming about this. I'm doing it. And I think that's what we're trying to get at with our listeners, mm-hmm. is that this idea is we can think about what we want. We can dream about what we want. We can fantasize about what we want. But what is going to move us to take action? Mm-hmm. And grit and having a piece of that. Identifying what's important to us, recognizing that it is a process and that has to be exercised, like a muscle, and worked it day in and day out through all those times of good and bad. It has to happen. This is what it is. Mm-hmm. And it was very clear message, coming through in, listening to his story.
Absolutely. It was really fun chatting with him. And so listeners, thank you so much for tuning into our show tonight. We hope you found a takeaway from the episode and can incorporate the mindset of Brian Herzlinger into your own life. Next week, we will be speaking with John Power, who is the Vice President of Casting for Warner Brothers, formerly the CW. And we're sticking with the entertainment theme for these 2 episodes. So we'll be looking forward to speaking with him as well. So until next time, get out there and start living your life all in.